Welcome back to Rewild by Design. I'm Marissa. Nice to be back. Took a little sabbatical. I wanted to ask a question. Just a show of hands, raise your hand, drop it in the comments. How many of you have looked at your human design chart and thought, okay, yep, I know my type. I got my, authority down. I know my profile. Why am I still doing the same shit over and over again? Why am I repeating these patterns? If you've ever had that thought, this episode is for you because we're talking about how human design itself as a tool isn't necessarily the thing that creates change. And also what I've noticed after reading hundreds of human design charts and that how it shifted the way I think about this work. I have met so many brilliant and talented women over the years who sit across the table from me and say something like, yeah, I still don't trust myself. Or maybe they don't have to say it out loud, but I can see that pattern happening. That's because knowing your chart and knowing yourself aren't always the same thing. I think what's surprising about that is because a lot of us stumble into human design, right? Because we want to understand ourselves better. And this system feels like we've found this missing piece, like Indiana Jones, right? We're like finding this lost treasure. Everything starts to click. We feel seen. We feel validated. We have the language for the things that we've felt our whole lives. But after that initial excitement wears off, there's a different question that starts showing up. It's, okay, now what? That's what we're going to talk about today, okay? So let's first back up and discuss why learning feels like progress, right? Learning feels productive. We have been so conditioned to measure our worth with productivity, right? You watch another YouTube video, you listen to another podcast, you buy another book, you take a course, you memorize your chart. Then maybe like me, you stumble into the gene keys. I actually did it backwards. I did the gene keys first and then made my way back to human design. But could be, you just go deep down that rabbit hole. And I want to say curiosity is a beautiful thing, right? It's one of the reasons why so many of us fall in love with these systems. But learning becomes this place to hide because life gets uncertain and we start comparing ourselves or we're not putting into practice the things that we're learning. But meanwhile, your life is asking you the same questions that it was asking 6 months ago, but you have the same answers, even though you have a new set of tools, right? I think almost everyone goes through what I call the collector phase, and especially line ones. You guys like to collect information, or gate 48, the well. You want to gather as much information as you can, right? Every piece of this information feels like it finally might be that piece de resistance. I don't speak French, sorry. But it's the one thing that'll help make everything else make sense. And for a while, that helps, right? It's part of the process. And eventually, there comes a point where another piece of information is not actually what's missing. Because I want to say learning a gate, right, is easier than asking yourself why you ignored your authority yesterday. Looking at today's transit is far easier than noticing why you agreed to do something that your gut told you didn't have energy for. Memorizing your profile is easier than paying attention to the way you keep abandoning yourself in these same situations. Okay, sure, it feels productive, but sometimes it's just another way of staying busy while nothing actually changes. I'm holding your hand and I'm lovingly giving you this little, kick in the ass today. So when I look at charts, like when I sit down across from somebody and I look at their chart, I am not looking for more facts to cram in their brain. What I'm looking for is patterns. I'm paying attention to the places where life probably taught them not to trust themselves, where they were told and they felt that they weren't enough, or they had to measure their worth by productivity, or they had to feel busy all the time, where they learned to override what their body was already telling them, or where they started believing that they had to earn love or recognition or belonging or success by being someone that they never really were meant to be. Now, those are usually the places that are still showing up years and decades later. And the chart is a great start to help us get curious, right? It helps us recognize if you're looking in the right place and you have this right mindset going into it, recognize these patterns, these like underlying subconscious patterns that have been running in the background. And once you see that pattern, you can make a new choice, and a new choice that you didn't even realize you had. And I think, again, when I'm sitting down across from somebody, I've had people basically come to me and say, "Hey, what does my chart say?" And sure, I could, give you this like soup to nuts explanation, but is that really going to help you? Because I pause when I hear that. In that, few words there, I'm hearing the word should. And we're getting away from the shoulds. Human design helps us peel back these layers of the onion and get into who we are at our core. Now, your chart itself is not going to decide whether or not you stay or leave in that relationship, or whether you should take that job or start the business or move across the country. You still have to make that decision. Right? Your chart is going to help you recognize where in the ways that you tend to get in your own way of making those decisions. Maybe you're someone who rushes, or maybe you're an overthinker. Maybe you're constantly looking outside of yourself for permission and validation, or maybe you're just constantly trying to prove yourself. Now, nothing about this, I don't want to make anything inherently wrong here. These are just patterns for survival. We've had to do this over the years to make sure that, we were trained in this way for love and acceptance. But so many of us have burned out over and over again by running in these old patterns. So wouldn't you say it's time to do something different about it? So it's time to stop ignoring what your body already knew because your mind came up with a more convincing argument. These little moments are when the chart actually becomes something that you can sink your teeth into, and you can say, hey, I can apply this to my actual decisions. I can apply this to my relationships. I can apply this to my career path. It's not in when you're studying and you're collecting more information. These real changes come in even the small decisions that you make each and every day. This random Tuesday when you're doing laundry. Human design can be so helpful in this actual application. If you have been learning your human design for a while and you found yourself thinking, okay, I know my chart, so why do I keep doing this? This is a great place to be. And my Decode Your Design reading is not just another, okay, let's collect it, we're going to read about it. It is something that you can take as a self-study reading, and you can take this and apply it to your life. Slow down as you're reading it and say, okay, what is my authority? How does this show up for me? How, thinking back, maybe taking out a journal, journaling on it, how has this showed up for me? How has living as my type shown up for me? What are my strengths? What are my areas for greatest opportunity from learning my chart? That's precisely what a Decode Your Design reading is for. Not another, YouTube video, another Instagram post that you're just going to save and never come back to, right? We're looking for different ways to actually start paying attention to ourselves. Now, if you are brand new and you've somehow stumbled on this podcast episode, welcome first, and start by grabbing my free chart. And it also includes what I call my energy snapshot. This is a 10-minute kind of audio of your human design type and the patterns that might be showing up for you and what I recognize after reading so many charts and working with so many women. Now, if this episode got you thinking, okay, I understand my chart, kind of, but what's next? I think you're going to really love what I am building. It should be ready hopefully within the next month or so. So if you are interested, I will leave the information in the comments and the show notes for the waitlist. It's called the Field Guide, and it is a 4-week self-paced audio course designed to help you stop studying your human design and start noticing where you're actually, living it and where you can live it more. So less memorization, more noticing and paying attention, catching yourself in these everyday moments that we just talked about. All right. So it has been so great to be on with you. As always, I love you, and I will talk to you next time.